You don't expect your life to split in half at 12:47 a.m. You don't expect the sound that does it to be a fist on your front door. And you definitely don't expect the people who taught you the word family to be the ones holding the knife. I was standing barefoot in my kitchen, the cold tile biting into my heels, staring at a spreadsheet that refused to make sense no matter how many times I recalculated it. A mug of tea sat forgotten near the sink, steam long gone. The house smelled faintly of vanilla and laundry detergent, the exact combination that always meant my daughter had already showered and gone to bed. It was a quiet Wednesday, not a memorable one. The kind of night you'd swear nothing important ever happens on. Then the knock came. Not a polite knock. Not the hesitant tap of someone second-guessing the address. This was sharp, heavy, certain. The kind of knock that doesn't ask, it announces. Once, twice, then again, louder. My first thought was irritation. Maybe a neighbor. Maybe a delivery mistake. I wiped my hands on my leggings and walked toward the door, already rehearsing a tired apology. When I opened it, there were 2 police officers standing under my porch light. They had that look. The one you don't forget once you see it pointed at you. Professional, guarded, uncomfortable, like they already knew they were about to ruin someone's night and didn't plan on cushioning the fall. "Ma'am," the taller one said, glancing at his tablet. "Is this the residence of Hannah Moore?" "Yes," I said, my pulse ticking up for reasons I didn't understand yet. "That's me, Adel. I'm Officer Delgado. This is Officer Barnes." He cleared his throat. "Are you the registered owner of a white 2022 Toyota Camry license plate?" He read the number. My stomach tightened. "Yes, that's my car." He took a breath that felt too deliberate. "Your vehicle was involved in a collision, approximately 45 minutes ago. Single car accident. The vehicle struck a tree on Ridgeway Drive." Ridgeway Drive. That was my parents' street. "I think there's been a mistake," I said carefully. "The car is in my driveway. I haven't left the house tonight." The officers exchanged a glance. Not confusion, not relief. The other kind. The one people give when they're about to say something they wish they didn't have to. "We need to speak with your daughter," Officer Barnes said, his voice softer. Witnesses at the scene identified her as the driver. For half a second, something absurd crossed my mind. 15. If she somehow drove into a tree, she'd be grounded until she was 40. The thought was so ridiculous I almost laughed. Then reality caught up. "My daughter?" I repeated. "No. She's been home all night. She's asleep." Officer Delgado nodded slowly. "Ma'am, we're not here to accuse anyone, but multiple individuals stated they saw a teenage girl driving the vehicle and leaving the scene. Multiple individuals. Not one confused person. Not a maybe." Cold spread through my chest. "Give me a moment," I said, already stepping back. I didn't wait for an answer. The hallway felt longer than it ever had. The nightlight cast a soft glow across my daughter's bedroom door. I knocked once and pushed it open. Maya was curled on her side. Hair spilled across her pillow. One arm wrapped around her phone like she'd fallen asleep mid-scroll. Her charger was plugged in. Her lamp was off. The low hum of white noise filled the room. "Maya," I whispered. She stirred, blinking up at me. "Mom?" Her voice was thick with sleep. "Is it morning?" "There are police officers at the door," I said quietly. "That did it." She sat up too fast, clutching the blanket. "What? Why?" "They're saying there was an accident," I said, watching her face carefully. "They're saying you were driving." The color drained from her skin so quickly it scared me. "What?" she whispered. "No, I didn't. I swear. I've been here." "I know," I said instantly. And I did. I knew it the way you know your own name. We walked back down the hallway together. She stayed close to me, her hand gripping the sleeve of my sweatshirt. When the officers saw her, their posture shifted just slightly. "Maya Moore?" Officer Barnes asked. She nodded. Can you tell us where you were tonight? He asked. In your own words. She's a minor, I said before Maya could speak. She's not answering questions without a lawyer present. There it was. The line. Officer Delgado gave a small nod. We understand. We'll note that. You may be contacted by a detective in the coming days. I'll be available, I said. They left without another word. I locked the door behind them and leaned my forehead against it, my breath coming out shallow. The house felt different now, like something invisible had shifted. Am I in trouble? Maya asked softly. I turned and knelt in front of her, taking her face in my hands. No, I said. You did nothing wrong, and I will not let anyone tell you otherwise. She nodded, but her eyes were shiny. That was the moment something inside me hardened, because I already knew where those witnesses had come from. My parents' house sat at the end of Ridgeway Drive, the same place I'd grown up learning that love had rules. My younger sister, Claire, still lived there, 32 years old, no steady job, no steady plans, always protected, always forgiven, the golden child. Growing up, Claire could do no wrong. If she broke something, she was emotional. If she crossed a line, she was misunderstood. If she hurt someone, it was because someone else must have pushed her first. I was 4 years older, old enough to know better, old enough to be responsible, old enough to be expected to clean up whatever she left behind. You're stronger, my mother used to say when Claire melted down. You know how she is, my father would add. Like that explained everything. I knew how she was. I just never imagined she'd sacrifice my child to save herself. The image that wouldn't leave my mind was the hook by the back door. One key was missing. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch listening to the house breathe, replaying the officer's words until they lost meaning. Maya eventually drifted off again, exhaustion winning over fear. I stayed awake, staring at the dark ceiling, piecing together a story I didn't want to believe. By morning, my phone buzzed with a message from my mother. We heard there was an incident. Are you okay? Not a word about Maya. That was when I knew. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't confusion. This was a choice. And whoever made it had no idea what they'd just started. I made coffee the next morning and forgot to drink it. The mug stayed untouched on the counter while I watched Maya sit at the kitchen table, staring at a piece of toast like it had personally offended her. Her hair was pulled into a loose knot. Dark circles sat under her eyes in a way that made my chest ache. 15-year-olds aren't supposed to look like they didn't sleep because the police came for them in the middle of the night. Are they coming back? She asked quietly. Not without calling first, I said. And next time they talk to a lawyer. Her shoulders relaxed a fraction. Just enough for me to notice. I waited until she went back to her room before I picked up my phone. I didn't call my parents. I didn't call my sister. I already knew what I'd hear. Confusion wrapped in concern. Denial disguised as love. I wasn't ready to bleed for that yet. Instead, I searched my contacts until I found the name I hadn't needed in years. Ethan Rowe, attorney. We'd gone to college together. He was the kind of man who listened more than he spoke, the kind who never raised his voice because he never had to. The last time we'd talked was when my divorce finalized. He told me, if you ever need someone on your side, call. So I did. He answered on the third ring. Hannah? He said, surprised. Everything okay? No, I said. Not even close. I told him everything. The car, the crash, the knock, the accusation, my parents' street, my sister's history, Maya sitting at my table wondering if her life was about to implode. When I finished, there was a pause. Okay, he said finally. First, there are no charges yet. That's good. Second, your daughter does not speak to anyone without me present. You already did the right thing. Third, we need proof. Proof of what? I asked. That Maya was home, he said, and that someone else had the car. I closed my eyes. I think I know who. I don't need to think, he said. I need to show. We set a video call for noon. When I hung up, I realized my hands were shaking not with fear, but with something sharper. Focus. Resolve. I knocked on Maya's door. Hey, I said gently. I need to ask you something. She nodded immediately. Okay, can I see your phone? She didn't hesitate. She handed it to me like it was evidence in a trial she'd never asked to be part of. We sat together on the couch, shoulder to shoulder, scrolling through her messages. At the time the officers said the crash happened, her screen was a steady stream of normal teenage nonsense. Group chat jokes, complaints about homework, a video link she'd sent to her best friend at 12:39 a.m. Timestamps don't lie. I took screenshots of everything. Is this okay? She asked softly. This isn't about mistrust, I said. This is about truth. She nodded, swallowing hard. Then I remembered something. Our neighbor across the street, Mark. Quiet guy, friendly enough. Installed a doorbell camera last year after packages started disappearing. I grabbed my keys and stepped outside before I could overthink it. Mark answered on the second knock. Hannah? He said. Everything all right? I need to ask you a huge favor, I said. And it's okay if the answer is no, he frowned. What's going on? My car was involved in an accident last night, I said carefully. And someone is claiming my daughter was driving. His eyes widened. What? No way. I was hoping your camera might have caught something, I said. From around midnight. He didn't hesitate. Come in. We stood shoulder to shoulder in his living room while he pulled up the footage. There it was. My driveway, washed in gray light. The Camry parked exactly where it should have been. Then the front door opening. Claire. Alone. She moved quickly, head down, keys already in her hand. She unlocked the car, slid into the driver's seat, and pulled away. No second figure. No hesitation. No 15-year-old girl. Just my sister, stealing my daughter's car. I stared at the screen. A strange calm settling over me. Do you want a copy? Mark asked. Yes, I said. Please. When I walked back home, my phone buzzed with the video file. I forwarded it to Ethan, along with the screenshots from Maya's phone. Subject line, evidence. He called me an hour later. This is solid, he said. Very solid. My chest loosened. So it's over? No, he said. Now it begins. He'd pulled the incident report. Your sister claims she was inside your parents' house the entire time, he said. She says she looked out the window and saw Maya driving alone before the crash. My jaw tightened. And your parents, he continued. They backed her up. Signed statements. Both of them. The room felt smaller. They didn't even hesitate, he said. They added details. Suggested Maya's been testing limits lately. Enough to imply negligence on your part. I laughed once. It sounded hollow. So what happens now? I asked. I'm sending everything to the detective and the DA today, he said. Once they see this, the narrative flips. There will be a follow-up meeting. With who? I asked. With everyone, he said. Your parents, your sister, you, Maya. I hung up and stared at the wall. My phone buzzed again. Mom, I let it ring. Then a text. We heard you got a lawyer. This is getting out of hand. Call us. I typed back before doubt could catch me. You gave sworn statements about my child. This is not out of hand. Do not contact us again. Speak to your attorney. I hit send. Maya stood in the hallway, watching me. Well? She asked. They lied, I said. All of them. Her face didn't crumple. It went still. But we have proof, I added quickly. And the truth. She nodded slowly. Okay. That night, for the first time since the knock at midnight, she didn't look afraid. She looked ready, and so was I. The days leading up to the meeting felt unreal, like we were all waiting for a storm that had already been named. Maya went to school again, insisting she didn't want to miss a test. That alone told me how deeply this had shaken her. She moved through the house quietly, carefully, like she was afraid of taking up space. I watched her pack her backpack with almost military precision, double-checking zippers, smoothing imaginary wrinkles from her sleeves. This is what they did to her, I thought. They took a kid who trusted the world and taught her it could turn on her overnight. I spent those days organizing evidence like my life depended on it. Screenshots labeled by minute, video footage saved in 3 places, emails backed up, every detail cataloged. Not because I doubted the truth, but because I'd lived long enough to know the truth doesn't win unless it's documented. Ethan called once a day. Calm, efficient. "They're rattled," he said on the second day. "Your sister changed her story slightly when the detective followed up." "Changed it how?" I asked. "She's vague now," he said. "Less specific. That usually means fear." On the third day, my father left a voicemail. "Hannah," he said, voice heavy. "This has gone too far. Families handle things privately." I deleted it without listening to the rest. The night before the meeting, Maya sat on my bed, twisting the string of her hoodie around her finger. "What if they still don't believe me?" she asked. "They will," I said. "And if they don't, it won't matter. We know the truth." She nodded, but her eyes stayed fixed on the floor. I realized then that this wasn't just about clearing her name. This was about repairing a crack in her sense of safety, one that had been caused by people who should have protected her. The police station smelled like disinfectant and burnt coffee. The conference room was small, windowless, lit by fluorescent lights that made everyone look a little sick. Maya sat beside me, her knee bouncing slightly until I rested my hand over hers. Ethan sat on my other side, legal pad in front of him, pen placed neatly on top. My parents arrived first. My mother clutched her purse like armor. My father avoided my eyes completely. They didn't ask about Maya. They didn't greet us. They sat down and waited. Claire came in last. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless except for the faint smudge under one eye, like she'd rubbed it too hard. She didn't look remorseful. She looked annoyed, like this was all a huge inconvenience. Detective Harris entered with the district attorney a moment later. Conversations stopped. Bodies straightened. This was no longer a family disagreement. This was a record. "We've reviewed additional evidence submitted by counsel," the detective began. "We're here to clarify the events of that night." He slid a folder onto the table and opened it. Still frames from the video. Claire stepping onto my porch. Claire unlocking the car. Claire alone behind the wheel. Silence pressed in on us. "This footage," he continued evenly, "shows Miss Claire Moore leaving Miss Hannah Moore's residence alone at approximately 12:41 a.m. My mother's lips parted. "It was dark," she said quickly. "We thought—" "You stated," the district attorney interrupted calmly, "that you clearly saw Maya Moore driving the vehicle. You signed that statement." My father shifted in his chair. "We assumed," he said weakly. "We were trying to help." "Help whom?" the attorney asked. No one answered. He turned to Claire. "Your statement claims you watched Maya drive away, panic, and flee the scene. Do you stand by that?" Claire's gaze dropped to the table. Her voice came out small. I wasn't thinking. I got scared." "Description." "So you lied," he said. She nodded. The word hung in the air, heavy and final. "Given the evidence," the attorney continued, "Maya Moore is cleared of all allegations. There will be no charges." Maya's hand tightened around mine. I felt her exhale slowly, like she'd been holding her breath for days. "As for the false statements," he added, turning back to my parents and Claire, "this office is reviewing next steps." My mother made a small sound, half gasp, half protest, but no one moved to comfort her. When the meeting ended, there was no shouting, no dramatic collapse, just paperwork, consequences, and the quiet sound of something breaking that had been broken for a long time. Outside, the sun felt too bright. "Is it over?" Maya asked. "For you," I said. "Yes," she nodded, shoulders lighter. Behind us, my family stood together, suddenly uncertain. The roles they'd relied on stripped away under fluorescent lights. We walked to the car without looking back. The consequences didn't arrive all at once. They came the way rot does, quietly, steadily, until one day you realize the structure you trusted has been hollow for years. The first week after the meeting passed in an uneasy calm. No more calls from the police, no letters, no sudden knocks. Maya slept through the night again, though sometimes I'd hear her stir around 3 a.m, the mattress creaking as she turned over. Trauma doesn't leave just because justice shows up on time. It lingers in the nervous system, in the way a child flinches at sudden sounds, in how silence stops feeling peaceful. I made an appointment for her with a therapist, not because anything was wrong with her, but because something wrong had been done to her. That distinction mattered. She didn't protest. She just nodded, like someone who already knew this was part of healing. The second week, the insurance company called. Unauthorized driver. Conflicting sworn statements. Claim denied. I felt nothing when the agent explained it. No anger. No shock. Just a strange sense of inevitability. Of course they wouldn't cover it. Lies leave fingerprints, even when people pretend they don't. Ethan handled the rest. Civil filings, demand letters, conversations I didn't have to sit through. He told me later that my parents sounded confused, offended, as if consequences were an unexpected inconvenience instead of the natural end of a decision. My sister didn't reach out at all. Not an apology, not an explanation, not even a defensive excuse. For years, I would have chased that silence, filled it with questions, bent myself into shapes, small enough to keep the peace. I would have asked what I'd done wrong, what I could do to fix it. This time, I let the silence sit. It felt heavier than words, but also cleaner. One afternoon, Maya came home from school and dropped her backpack by the door, something she never did before. She stood there for a moment, then said, "They asked me about it today." "Who?" I asked. "Some kids," she said. "Word got around. That my aunt crashed my car. That my grandparents lied." I waited, heart tight. "And?" She shrugged. "I told them the truth. That I didn't do anything. That adults can be wrong." Something in her voice had changed. There was a steadiness there that hadn't existed before. Not hardness. Awareness. That scared me more than fear ever could. Later that night, I found myself standing in the hallway outside my parents' old bedroom, except it wasn't their bedroom anymore. It was Maya's therapy office on my laptop screen. Door cracked open just enough for me to hear her voice drifting out. "I think the worst part," she was saying, "was realizing they knew it wasn't true. And they said it anyway." There was a pause. Like, I wasn't important enough to tell the truth for. I closed my eyes and leaned against the wall. That was the moment the anger finally arrived. Not hot, not explosive, cold, focused. Because what they'd done wasn't just illegal. It wasn't just immoral. It was foundational damage. The kind that teaches a child her safety is conditional. And that was unforgivable. The legal consequences came quietly. A misdemeanor for my sister. Filing a false report. No jail time, but a permanent mark. One she'd have to explain on applications, leases, background checks. My parents received their own penalties for knowingly providing false statements involving a minor. Nothing dramatic, just enough to follow them. The civil case settled quickly. They didn't want a trial. They didn't want discovery. They didn't want emails and footage and sworn testimony pulled into daylight. They wanted it over. The payout covered the full value of the car. Legal fees, costs, no apology attached. The house went up for sale 3 months later. I didn't hear that from them. I heard it from a cousin who still believed updates were a kindness. Apparently, the fines came first, then the lawyers, then the loans. The math stopped working. I drove past Ridgeway Drive once, by accident. The hedges were still trimmed. The mailbox still leaned slightly to the left. But the place felt smaller now. Temporary. Like a set after the cameras stop rolling. Maya was quiet in the passenger seat. "That used to be Grandma's house," she said. "Yes," I replied. "Does it feel weird?" she asked. I thought about it. About birthdays spent there. Holidays. Dinners where I swallowed words to keep things smooth. Years of being the responsible one. The understanding one. The one who absorbed impact so others wouldn't have to. "No," I said finally. "It feels honest." She nodded, like that made sense. Our life settled into something new. Calmer, quieter, smaller, but in a way that felt intentional instead of lonely. Maya got a used car, a reliable one, nothing fancy. We picked it out together. She still checked mirrors twice, still reminded me of speed limits, still signaled early like the world was watching, but there was something else now. Boundaries. She asked more questions, spoke up faster, didn't apologize when she hadn't done anything wrong. I watched her grow a spine in real time and wondered how many years it would take me to forgive myself for not modeling that sooner. Sometimes people asked if I missed my parents. They asked carefully, like the answer might shatter. "I miss who I thought they were," I said. "Not who they showed me." That answer never made them comfortable, but it made me free. People assume the hardest part is the confrontation, the police station, the evidence. The moment the lies finally collapse under fluorescent lights. It isn't. The hardest part comes later, when the noise dies down and you're left alone with the truth about them, about yourself, about all the moments you stayed quiet because it felt safer than rocking the boat. For weeks after everything settled, I caught myself bracing for phone calls that never came. My body still expected conflict. That constant readiness didn't disappear overnight. Healing rarely announces itself. It just shows up one day as space. Space where guilt used to live. Space where fear used to sit. One evening, Maya and I were folding laundry together. Nothing special. Socks mismatched, a hoodie inside out, the usual. She held up one of my old sweaters and smiled slightly. "You always fold this one wrong." "I do not," I said automatically. "You totally do," she replied, laughing. The sound stopped me cold. Not because it was loud, but because it was easy. I realized then that for the first time since that night, our home didn't feel like it was holding its breath. Later, as she headed to her room, she paused in the doorway. "Hey, Mom?" "Yeah? Thanks," she said, "for believing me." It wasn't dramatic. She didn't cry. She didn't hug me. She just said it like a fact. I nodded, because anything else would have cracked me open. That was when I understood something I wish I'd learned sooner. Children don't need perfect parents. They need present ones. Ones who choose them, loudly, even when it costs something. Especially when it costs something. Months passed. Life filled itself with normal things again. School deadlines, grocery lists, movie nights where we argued about what to watch. Maya started therapy and came home talking about boundaries like she'd discovered a new language. She used words like self-trust and emotional safety with a seriousness that made me smile and ache at the same time. She was rebuilding something that never should have been broken. I was doing the same. Sometimes, late at night, I replayed old memories with new eyes. Birthdays where I'd been asked to be understanding. Holidays where tension was smoothed over with silence. Moments where my discomfort was treated as inconvenience rather than signal. I used to think strength meant endurance. Now I know better. Strength is interruption. Strength is refusal. Strength is saying, "This stops here." We don't talk to my parents anymore. Not because I enjoy punishment. Not because I wanted revenge. but because distance was the only way to keep the truth intact. Peace, I learned, doesn't always look like reconciliation. Sometimes it looks like quiet mornings, and unlocked doors, and a child who sleeps through the night. A cousin told me recently that my sister still insists she was misunderstood, that my parents frame the whole thing as unfortunate and blown out of proportion. I didn't correct them. Some people need their stories more than they need reality. That doesn't make it my job to participate. The car incident comes up sometimes, usually from strangers online, or acquaintances who heard a watered-down version of the story. Wouldn't it have been easier to just let it go? They ask. What about family? Did it really have to go that far? Here's the thing no one tells you. It already went that far the moment a grown woman pointed a finger at a child and expected silence to protect her. I didn't escalate. I responded, there's a difference. One night, Maya asked me something that stayed with me. If I ever mess up, she said, will you still tell the truth? I didn't hesitate. Yes, I said. But I won't lie to protect you from accountability. And I won't let anyone lie to hurt you either. She nodded slowly, thinking it through. Okay, she said. That feels fair. And it was. That's what real protection looks like. Not erasing consequences. Not rewriting reality. But standing between a child and injustice with your whole chest. If you're listening to this and something in your stomach feels tight, there's probably a reason. Maybe you've been the responsible one. Maybe you've been told to understand when no one ever understood you. Maybe you learned early that belonging came with conditions. Let me tell you something I wish someone had told me years ago. You are allowed to stop carrying what was never yours. You are allowed to choose truth over tradition. You are allowed to protect your child, even if the threat wears a familiar face. Some doors close loudly. Others close when you finally stop holding them open. And on the other side of that door isn't loneliness. It's peace. Now, I want to ask you something. If you were in my place, if protecting your child meant exposing a lie your family had rehearsed for years, would you do it? Comment 0 if you believe protecting a child should always come before protecting family reputations. Comment 1 if you think there's a better way this could have been handled. And if stories like this resonate with you, stories about boundaries, truth, and the quiet courage it takes to stop being silent, consider staying with this channel. Some stories aren't meant to entertain. They're meant to wake you up. And this one was worth telling.